Well, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. It is Dave Whitaker and Corey on the Farm4Profit podcast, and we are coming to you live from the EQIP building, the steel building next to the grain bins at the 2022 Farm Progress Show.
Day two.
And we got a great guest with us right here. We got Chad Kloberdanz. Did I say that right? You pronounce it for me.
Kloberdanz.
Kloberdanz, perfect. And Corey, he is also vendoring in the building here. And, as farmers, we walk by and we say, I wonder what that guy does. Well, I stopped and talked with Chad, and I found out just a little bit of what he does, and I want to share it with all of our listeners. So this is almost a Farm4Profit episode more than a Farm for Fun.
Yep.
So, Chad, tell me just real quick, 30,000-foot view, what are you doing here?
Well, Kloberdanz Consulting is an energy consulting firm based out of Des Moines, Iowa, and we focus on energy conservation for on the farm. As a business owner, we look at energy practices around the farm where you can conserve energy, things like that.
So I'm a farmer walking by at the Farm Progress Show. You're talking energy audit type deal.
Right.
What does that do for me? I got no idea.
Well, so if you're looking to upgrade, say, lighting in your shop, or in this case, grain dryer, we can help you, or we can help you basically get financial assistance by having an energy study done. Basically, you can get up to 25% of a cost to replace something that is currently in operation that is outdated, let's say, consuming a lot of energy. In this day and age, we like to seal up our infrastructure. So building envelope is a big one, along with, like I said, I'm here for EQIP for grain dryers.
So we're going to get into the nuts and bolts of that, but I'm interested, how did you get into this?
I've always had kind of a farming background. My background actually is heating, ventilation, air conditioning, and I just always had a niche towards energy. And so I kind of, about 5 years ago, started my own consulting firm, focusing on rural America really is what I try to say. Communities that are 50,000 and less. And with that, agriculture plays a big part in that. So I kind of just shifted towards working with a lot of farmers from different practices and stuff like that.
So did you grow up in rural America?
I did. I grew up in Northeast Iowa. So.
And then you went to college, and what's your degree?
My degree's in HVAC engineering, so heating, ventilation, air conditioning engineering.
And how did you get set up with EQIP?
I think a lot of the dealers, I do a lot of work with the dealers through EQIP. And they've had some pretty good success rate with getting financial assistance for most obviously EQIP grain dryers, and so they kind of just made a point to say, hey, he should be here because he's got something good that a lot of people don't know that these programs actually exist.
So Corey, what I'm hearing is possible financial assistance. So if you're in the crowd and you're listening here and you want a new grain dryer, this man right here has a way to help us buy that, and possibly 25-50% incentive to do that. Corey, you're going to put up a new grain bin. Maybe you should be doing this.
Yeah, we're going to be putting up a new grain bin, and we actually have an old Cansom dryer that's like from the 70s. It's efficient for its time, but not as efficient as these new ones. New grain dryers are expensive.
So, Chad, how do we know his old grain dryer versus the new grain dryer that we get an incentive? Like, walk me through the process. Is there like a study, or how's that work?
So we do what's called a feasibility study, or an energy audit. I refer to it sometimes, and we'll look at your current farming practices and your current farming operation. We gather usually 24 months or 3 years worth of electrical data and propane usage, or if you're on natural gas, we can get that too. And then we can compare that against something new that is being built today with the efficiencies that are being built today.
Okay, and so we're going to get a study done, and then you're going to tell us as a consultant, hey, you guys qualify for this, that, or the other. I'm sure you know all the grant programs that are out there or incentive programs that are out there. And then you're going to recommend something, and then we apply for it. Do you write the grant, or is that like, are you just third party?
I am a third-party consultant. I really don't want to get into the grant writing part of that. That's a lot of that takes a lot more time. I kind of focus mostly just on the energy and energy conservation for that producer.
Okay, so Corey's gonna let's pretend Corey's gonna take his old grain dryer and he's gonna buy a new cross-flow dryer out here. And so he comes to you. It sounded like 3 years. That's what I heard was about 3 years before. Gets a feasibility study. So we're doing our homework here at the Farm Progress Show, and we say I'm gonna get me a new grain dryer eventually. And when I do, I come to you, and then there's a huge possible savings in energy. Do we just do that project, or at the same time, do we put new LEDs in the shop? Do we? He's got a hog building. Does he update the hog building? Is it just one job, or is it like lots?
Well, I usually feel out the producer. Actually, when I talk to them, a lot of times they call me because they got my name, and they said, "Well, I heard that I can get a grant," and then I kind of start to ask them, do you raise livestock? What other things, hey, by the way, if we can include more activities on your farm and more things on your farm, you might have a better chance of getting funded. That also then raises the question, like, what program do they want to go through, and timing-wise, what are we looking for? Usually I tell people it's a 1 to 2 year project out, unless you come to me and say, hey, I want to put a new grain dryer in, for next year. We can put you in a different program, kind of tunnel you through a different program to fast track that.
So let's talk about those programs. What are we using here?
Well, the one is the USDA REAP grant, Rural America for Energy program. That currently right now pays up to 25% if you qualify. And I want to say 25%. We may know more later in this year if that is going to change, but for right now it's 25%. The other one is part of EQIP, Environmental Quality Initiative Program. Inside of that program there is a on-farm energy program. So
Okay.
We're looking at your approach to on-farm energy efficiency. So I was explaining earlier, like it's just not grain. It is hog operations, dairy facilities, chicken facilities. I kind of get a whole bunch of them.
So I know in EQIP, I've looked at that before, and a lot of times the funding might have ran out for the county.
Mm-hmm.
But has something changed that there's more available now?
Is there the new bill that just came out? There's a new bill for anti-inflation bill. Does that include any of this funding?
Yes, I believe a lot of it is going to be a lot of this money is going to be put back into EQIP. Maybe not necessarily energy, but what I'm hoping is it'll free up money that was in other pools, and then they can go for energy. And as far as I know, the last time I asked, energy is an initiative, so it scores pretty high points.
I think that's why you got to hire the consultant. Is he knows the right pools to pull from there, Corey?
What kind of increase are we looking at?
For dollars?
For dollars or percentage?
So based on what I've seen in the past, there's a pretty good. So EQIP pays by a percentage, or for instance, in Iowa, it'll pay by the capacity of the dryer. So if your dryer does over, and I think I've done the math, if it does over 600 bushels an hour, which most dryers are going to be able to hit, you will cap that dollar amount out at $50,000. There's other states that they don't have that cap, that it just keeps going up and up and up. Yep. Lighting improvements, they pay very well to update lights in your shop. As far as building envelope, which is insulation for ceiling and attic, I get quite a few of those as well.
Can this be in a new building? Like if you wanted SUCIP to build a brand new steel building, now the building's probably not covered under this, but let's pretend you wanted the insulation, the lights, etc. Can I plan that 2 years out?
If it's a resource concern, if it's qualified as a resource concern, if you have an existing building now, and you put up the steel structure, and you want to insulate it, and you want to make it more energy efficient, that would be your resource concern. So,
Okay.
Yes.
Gotcha.
I had a question. Well, back to my increase. I think you were talking about one of the programs is going from millions to billions.
Oh, yeah. With that new inflation bill, there's word on the street that there will be a lot of money put into energy conservation or farming practices in general, cover crops. I know that's one thing that they've talked about, things like that. So
And there's a scenario that it's from 25% to possibly 50%.
that is correct. That is what I was told, that it's potentially going from 25% cost share to 50%. So we don't know if that's of the total dollar amount or if that's the grant application.
Okay.
Because right now, when you apply for a grant, the first cutoff's $80,000.
Okay. And
then it goes up to $250,000 is the next cutoff. So I don't know if they're going to keep that or if they're going to say, hey, it's 50% of the total project cost.
Okay. Go ahead.
So I'm curious. I think I talked to you earlier, and you said 6 years you've been doing this. How many people have you helped get money? I mean, over 6 years, are there a lot of people that apply for grants and assistance when putting in a grain dryer?
There are. I think it's actually a pretty good program because as you think of it, as a homeowner living in the city, we get incentives or rebates.
Update my air conditioner, et cetera, et cetera.
Right.
Yep.
Those on the farm, they might not get that.
You wouldn't even think about it. I didn't even think about it.
No.
So I tell a lot of farmers, when in doubt, just give me a call. I'd be happy to help you if there's a possibility, and kind of go down that road.
So we've talked dryers, grain dryers, and lights. And Dave mentioned some other things. What are some other things around the farm that could qualify?
Really, almost excluding the house, we can't look at the residence, but really anything that consumes energy. So I get a lot of questions about diesel tractors and replacing them with electric motors for like grain handling.
And
yes,
things, yeah.
That qualifies qualifies fairly well because we're reducing our carbon emissions by taking out that diesel tractor, replacing with an electric motor.
And I think I asked you this yesterday. What about like going to a single phase to three phase?
That has not been brought up yet, but it's funny you say that because yesterday I got an email from a USDA representative asking about that. So I was kind of like, well, it's your program, not mine.
Yeah.
So
I mean, it's energy.
There may be opportunities for that. And I hope there is because there's a lot of people with our infrastructure right now that need to probably look at that.
And I think you said possibly it might not get it there, but it might get it a lot closer.
Right.
One thing I wasn't even thinking of, because we're not as big a dairy in the Midwest, but of course we were interviewing people yesterday from all over. Would dairy qualify, dairy systems, if you have dairy cattle?
Absolutely. Dairy's a big one. Because you just think about all the pumping and
even
the milk
refrigeration units. I can
Right.
think of a bunch of things. Yeah.
Right.
What about, like you asked about dairy, but what about hogs or like CAFOs?
Yeah. So hog operation we get a lot involved in. There's not a whole lot in a hog operation. What I've been seeing a lot of is building envelopes. So insulation in the attic. Usually after so many years, they've either replaced it or it's fell down, and they just need to update that. Controllers is a big one. A couple years ago, I had a producer put all new controllers, the really fancy controllers in all of his barns. That way he's able to read it all from one location instead of going to each individual barn. Along with that, we put all new ECM motors in for his fans, which are electronically controlled motors, so they can slow down and speed up, slow down and speed
Like
up.
a VFD.
Right, yes.
Variable frequency drive.
And that all qualifies. So that's something that all of our listeners can take and be more profitable. Flat out, they can use money that's available at their discretion. But but you on the consulting side know that. I guess I wouldn't even have known that to even ask for that.
I've got a scenario on a hog site because I got my own hog site.
Okay.
It's curtain sides.
Yeah.
It's weaned to finish, so we get these 12-pound pigs in the middle of winter, and it needs to be 83 degrees in there. So I could probably qualify for putting solid sides and insulation in and not burning as much LP.
Absolutely. That was one that was just added here recently. I did two of them over, one of them up in northeast Iowa, the other one out by Pocahontas out that way, that they completely enclosed their building and then went from a curtain to a tunnel ventilated barn.
So probably couldn't stretch to I want to get rid of my 25-year-old buildings and put up just efficient buildings with VFDs and all this stuff. Because I'm telling you, Dave, these new buildings are smart.
Really?
Yep.
Yeah, they're pretty nice.
But that'd probably be a stretch to get a new building.
So let's, for our listeners, as we wrap up, let's go through a timeline. So we meet you here at Farm Progress Show. We talk to you. You say, hey, you might qualify for a grant, like Corey's scenario. I want to put new sides on my building, energy efficiency. Oh yeah, and I'd like a grain dryer. So they meet with you. What I'm hearing is that you're going to do a study that might take 5 months, 2 months.
Yeah, it just depends on your timing, I would say.
Okay. So we get that done, and then somebody else writes a grant. So you probably have a recommendation for a grant writer of sorts, because I don't know any as a farmer. And then they're going to write a grant. We're going to apply for it. I'm guessing you're 80 to 100% on your grant writing, that the projects you've worked on if you're in business for this. And then we get awarded the grant. Then do you stay in contact with us? You're the consultant on the front end, third party. Do you follow it all the way through to the end of the project, or do we then take it over as the general contractor and make it happen?
Well, I like to stay involved as much as I possibly can. Matter of fact, I just did a couple over by the Field of Dreams where I tried to reach back out to them and see if I can get some tickets. But I like to just follow up with them, and it won't. A lot of times I'll be driving across Iowa and just be like, oh yeah, by the way, that was a project I did a couple years ago, and I'll stop in and just see and ask how things are going. But as far as project managing, I kind of leave that up to you guys, the producer, because they're the ones that are going to be able to work with it quite often. One
or two buzzwords that we really haven't hit, but probably should when we're talking about energy efficiency. Do you do anything with solar or wind?
Not really renewable. I try to push as hard as I can efficiency first. Then we can definitely look at those renewable energy sources. Nothing irritates me more than walking into a farm and they got solar, but they've got very, very old inefficient light fixtures and things like that. So I try to push efficiency first, because that's how we're going to get energy independence. Is efficiency first.
But if someone was efficient already, you
Yes.
could write a grant for
I can
solar?
I can put them in the direction. I don't write the grant. I can definitely help them.
And run the studies. And,
Right.
yeah.
Exactly right.
How about your service? If someone wants to hire you, are you a flat fee? Is it a percentage of the project? How does that work?
I just have a flat fee. Usually just depends on the size of their operation and what we're dealing with. How much is it going to cost? And some of the programs, they can actually apply for cost share to hire a TSP, somebody like myself.
I think some of the grant writing is even possibly being
Cost
able to
share.
hire. Yeah, these flies are bad.
Sorry.
Yeah, that's all right.
Yeah. So some of the grant writing can be cost shared as well through some of those programs.
So I think a good grant can cost $5,000 to write, or
Yeah, usually it's the grant writers I work with a lot are get a percentage of the funded amount usually. But a lot of the programs that I help do the study in, a lot of that cost can be included in your total project cost, because a feasibility study or a energy study is kind of what has to be done in order to just determine is this a good project or not. So.
Corey, and I got to imagine, if you're writing a grant, let's pretend you thought you were really good at doing it yourself and you did it yourself. If you had his feasibility study as a engineered study, whoever's reading the grant's got to give it more credit that, hey, this person actually went to the work to make this happen, and they're looking into it to be more efficient. Yeah, let's award the award to them.
Yep.
I would think.
I think it would make it worth big time to work with someone like that.
So if somebody wants to work with you, how do they get a hold of you? What's your plug?
Yeah, my business is Kloberdanz Consulting, all spelled out. Or they can give me a call, 515-333-8461. That's my cell phone.
Are you on any social media?
Not really. No,
Okay, gotcha.
no.
And you're out of Des Moines, right?
I am out of Des Moines, but I do travel all over the country. So
So you're not just Iowa.
no, I am not.
all
I am
over.
not. I am not Iowa. So I got some projects all over. So
I feel like I should spell this out. Kloberdanz.
that is correct.
Kloberdanz Consulting. Well, thanks for joining us on the podcast.
I appreciate it, guys.
Way to make farmers more profitable, and if they can help assist with their new EQIP grain dryer, that'd be
right.
fantastic.
And if you're in the crowd or walking, he's set up right here in the building.
Yeah.
So.
Well, thanks again, listeners. Till next time.
Thank you.